Welcome to Perspective.
Hello, I'm Donna Phelan. I'm in Irwindale, California, just east of Pasadena, California, where the Tournament of Roses takes place. I'm in a massive warehouse known as the Barn, where hundreds of volunteers are working intently to decorate more than 40 floats, just in time for the Rose Parade. Let's take a look. I'm speaking with Dee Hardison, former mayor of Torrance, California. Dee's been working on the float for how many years?
This is my 36th year.
36 years decorating the Torrance float. Why do you do that?
Well, I got started when my younger son was 12. He hadn't had his 13th birthday, and you have to be 13 to decorate. So he conned me into bringing him out, and he's a very attentive person even then, and he did a good job. Nobody minded that he hadn't quite had his 13th birthday. And then I just kept coming and enjoy it and have continued to come. I usually come in this in-between period because my paying job was I was a Torrance teacher for 26 years, and the students that come out here are usually middle school, high school age, and I taught middle school, and I thought after I have them all day in class, I don't want them at night too. So, but anyway, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and several times our son who got me started actually lives up in Ventura, works in Santa Barbara, will call up and say, "Hey Mom, when are you decorating?" And he'll just meet me here and decorate too. So it hasn't become a family event. I tried to convince my husband to come, and he came one year, but unfortunately they had him down on his back gluing something underneath like pea pods or something, and he said, "Thank you very much, but that's not for me."
So you have to be 13 years old. And I understand that there are all generations working on the floats.
Oh yes, and I think it's what's fantastic is that particularly if they have some cutting, you see grandparents sitting next to not necessarily their own grandchildren, could be, but sitting to children who could be their grandchildren, just getting to know each other, and But there are generations that come out every year and decorate. That come from the East Coast every year and decorate because they started it for some reason here, and part of their vacation is to come out and decorate the Torrance float.
That's very exciting. There are very few activities where you can get multiple generations involved. And in addition to being a school teacher, you were also the former mayor of Torrance. Is that correct?
That is correct. I served 8 years on the city council, and then in 1994 was elected mayor and served to 2002. So I still when the current mayor asks, I usually help out if there's something. He finds little jobs for me to do, and so it just keeps me off the streets or something like that.
And Torrance is a wonderful community, and this is a wonderful community activity. I want to ask you about some of the materials that you're applying to the float here. Could you walk us through it?
Well, in this case tonight, I'm working on, actually we're using white glue, and it's real important that you use the right kind of glue. As I was talking to my partner here tonight over here that's decorating, I have come back, I have sometimes had to, and she has to take off work because somebody has used the wrong glue in the first place. And it's kind of meticulous work. What we're doing here is putting kidney beans on, and they can't look like they're in rows, so they have to look like they're sort of hazmat, hazardous, however they just sort of fell. But it's not the easiest, as it says, and we have to keep them flat. So you get them in there, then you have to go back and look, and I go in and pound and run my hands over to make sure that they're all flat.
So these right here, can we get a shot of that? These right here are the kidney beans.
Yes, those are the kidney beans, and they're little, and they're a little bigger than pea pods, but not much bigger, and so it takes a lot of time to get a little bit done. So but we've got other good worker here on the other side, and it doesn't look like I didn't do all this, I just started partway through, but if you can't see where one person ended and one starts, you're usually in pretty good shape.
Terrific. And what is on this part of the book?
It's some sort of a seed, sesame seed, yes. the authority is right next to me. You should ask.
I'm told that these are sesame seeds. If I can step up here, and we're going to see if the camera can follow us. And your name is? I want to make sure that everybody's in the camera shot here.
Dawn Hamilton.
And we're speaking with Dawn Hamilton, and she is the authority on the natural materials that go on the float. Longtime decorator. Could it be 21st year and 36 for D? I'd say you're both pretty experienced at this. So these are sesame seeds down here below, and these are kidney beans. And what is on the pot of gold?
Crushed straw flour, or finely chopped straw flour.
And how do you get that on there?
That's white glue as well.
So those are little bits of straw flour that you put on little pieces at a time?
Correct. They've taken the big straw flour, cut it down, and then finally chopped the petals from the dry straw flour.
And how long does that take?
That can take a long time because it's big petals, and then you're chopping it and chopping it and chopping it just to get finer and finer until you get it's almost like a powder.
Kind of getting them, and you get the glue on, and you get a box underneath, and it's sort of slap it on a bit. Yeah.
Wait 1 second.
Foam pieces. We use foam pieces so it conforms to the float a lot easier. You can just put the flowers on it and just press it up real lightly instead of getting your hand on it. So when you put your hand on it, you can take off what you just put on.
So there's a technique to this. And I understand that you have 5 days to decorate the entire float.
Yeah, although some work is done ahead of time, some of the dry work, but basically it's a 5-day effort. And Torrance always gets them done on time. And in fact, usually I never want to come out and decorate the last night because quite often they're pretty much done.
Really?
That is one of the nicer ones because they're putting all the fresh flowers on, and the florists actually come and help arrange those. So, but Torrance offers many people. I'm not sure how many vials of roses are put on the float each year, but people sponsor a vial and put it, and the name goes in with the flower. And so that's kind of one of the last things to do also in this last day or so.
That's wonderful. That's an awesome sentiment. And I understand that this year, Ace Clearwater Enterprises stepped up to sponsor the float at the last minute.
They actually stepped up early in the year, and I did. I happen to know the folks from Ace Clearwater, and it was just wonderful that they came forward and met with the people, and they committed early enough because you have to commit fairly early to then go forward. It isn't like you could wait till November and decide you were going to have a float.
And that would be Kelly and Gary Johnson. Is that correct?
That's right. And I knew them from another organization that I was on through the city. They also have been good employers of offering job opportunities and that's where I first had met them.
And they have been tremendous sponsors of the float this year. They've been in the Torrance area in business for 50 years, I understand.
Yes, and I haven't known them for 50 years, but I've probably known them for at least 20 years. And I was just delighted when I heard that they had come forward to do this, and hopefully they are going to be a good example for other companies in our Torrance area to come forward and help sponsor the floats, because it's pretty much impossible with the economic times. Cities can't step up and pay for it all themselves, and it'd be a real shame after all the years that we've had the float that if we didn't have one again next year.
And I understand that Kelly and Gary Johnson were float decorators.
Yes, I think either a year or two ago is when I was first out there and got reacquainted, and they were decorating, and they were sort of, at the first year I think they were fairly newbies at it, but very excited about it, and we need new people to come, and they were just delightful, and I had a great time getting to reacquainted with them.
Well, we're speaking with Dee Hardison, former mayor of Torrance and a very experienced float decorator after 36 years. I want to thank you, and we're going to kind of make our way around to the other side of the float. I'm speaking with Bob Diaz, float decorator for how many years?
Well, 10 years total. It started off many years back, did it for a while, quit, then came back in 2006, and I really love it.
And how did you get involved?
Well, at the time, I was a commissioner on the Cable Advisory Board, and I heard about it and visited with the float people, found out about it, and they were real nice and very forgiving to me to let me show up with no pass or anything and let me decorate and got the kids involved. They were old enough at the time. And then I fell out of it and then later thought about it and said, gee, I kind of missed doing it and came back.
It seems that people don't decorate the float just once. They do it multiple times. So why is that?
It's addicting. It is fun. And I have to admit, there's a little bit of ego involved in the sense that when you see it go down Colorado Boulevard, you watch on the TV, or I watch on the TV, and I'm sure the other float builders do decorators do the same. You watch on the TV and go, I did that. See, I did that.
And the floats have actually won awards in 13 out of the last 16 years. Were you involved in those?
Yes, several of them. And it's kind of cool when they win an award.
What is the best part of working on the float?
I guess you get a chance to be creative and kind of make something, because when we first arrive, this thing is empty. It's flat. And it's okay, but it doesn't look that great. And you spend a whole day, putting on flowers or petals or something, seeds. And when you finish at the end of the day, you look and go, wow, what a difference.
And it really comes together all in 5 days. Is that correct?
Yeah, 5 very hectic days. We have a morning shift and an evening shift. And it all has to be put together in those 5 days.
I want to talk about the rocket behind us, which is one of the elements of design of this year's float. And all of the elements have to be natural. Is that correct?
Yeah, you have to have something that is plant-based material. And so every single surface has to be covered with something. And the funny thing is, sometimes there are surfaces that will be covered and something covers on top of it, so you never see it. Only the decorator gets to see it.
That's amazing. And how big is the float? Do you know?
I believe it's 35 feet, but you want to double check to make sure of that.
And what are some of the elements that you've applied to the float in terms of flowers or nuts or seeds?
Well, so far, because I've only done 1 day of decorating, today is simply just photographing. So far, I only worked on part of the hammock. That's it, entire day, and didn't even finish.
Oh my goodness, and it's a huge float to have one element not completed by you in a day or by any one volunteer.
Yeah, you have to understand that it'll vary, the number of volunteers in a day. But, typically a shift might be 40 volunteers, and we have a day shift and a night shift. So conceivably, there could be 80 people working on it just 1 day.
And the float was designed by Fiesta Floats. Have you worked with them before?
Yeah, they've worked with Fiesta Floats for a number of years. You're going to have to ask somebody on the board when we began working with them. And Raul Rodriguez has designed the float.
Yes, and he's well known for his float design, and he himself has won many awards.
Yeah, correct.
Well, I'm speaking with Bob Diaz, and we're here at the barn in Irwindale, California, overlooking the Torrance float. And thank you for speaking with us today, Bob.
Thank you. You're welcome.